Okay, so what we've got to do first of all is sort out the neck relief on this guitar. So the neck relief is the amount of bow that there is in the neck to compensate for the vibration of the string as it moves up and down when you're playing it. And this has got far too much. So when I measured it with this engineered straight edge and the feeler gauges, what we got was over 20, probably about 23 thousandths of an inch between the bottom of this edge and the top of the fret, around about 7th fret. It should be no more than about 10 or 12. So what we've got to do is tighten up the truss rod so it straightens out the neck, flattens it, the tension. And this is where the end of the truss rod is, underneath the cover. We've taken the cover off, so you'll see that on nearly every guitar. And you've got a nut at the end. And normally it's of a standardish sort of size. PRS Gibson, there's an Ibanez size. This is much smaller. This is, I think, the Ibanez nut adjuster, and it's too big. But what we've worked out is that the 6mm socket will fit this. So if I go into this, I can get the socket onto the end of it, and if I turn it clockwise, hopefully it'll tighten up the truss rod and straighten it out, so I can get it down to between 8 and 10 if we're lucky, maybe a little bit less. The flatter the better, because that makes it more playable at the top end. But what I need to do first is get some lubricant inside this truss rod, because it may not have been moved for 57 years since it was built, and it's probably a little bit stuck. So I'm going to get a little bit of lubricant down in there, and I'm going to leave it for a couple of days to soak all the way down inside the neck, so that will mean that when we try and move the truss rod, it doesn't strip off the thread on the nuts. And so I'm going to do that now. I'm not going to show you doing that, but we'll come back later. Okay, so I put some lubricant down into the nut, and in a couple of hours it had completely disappeared. So I think that soaked all the way down. Anyway, the bottom line is that the truss rod works. So we've got this socket wrench on with the number 6 socket in there, and I've already had a go at moving the truss rod, and it does go. It makes a bit of a creaky noise when it's working, but it's pretty smooth. And I've managed to get this truss rod now down to around about where I think it's going to need to be. So without the strings on, it's just about flat. And in my experience, that means that when you put the strings on, the string tension is going to pull it to more or less the right place. And then we can do a little bit more adjustment of the truss rod if we really need to. But I'm fairly confident we won't. Now, having got the strings off, I can have a closer look at these frets, and I'm sure you can see there ain't a lot of fret left. So I'm going to talk to the owner, because I think really this needs fret replacement. Needs a refret, and a refret's not cheap. But then this is a vintage guitar, so it may deserve a little bit of special treatment. So I'm going to speak to Phil and see what he says. If he doesn't want me to do it, then I'm going to fret level it. And even though there's not much left on the frets, I'm going to crown it to the best of my ability. It's going to be tricky to round the tops of these frets because there's not a lot left, but we'll do what we can do. So yeah, next job I think is going to be the frets. So I think I'll do the frets next, and I'll do the electrics after that, or maybe the other way around. Let's see.